Welcome to today's episode of the Cross Labs podcast, On My Mind.
We see a lot of things that can kind of do a ton of stuff now. What are the things that it's like, all right, I still really need something that could do this and we still have no idea how to do it? Basically, what's the unsolved problems? What are the things that we still really want to do with, I'm not even going to say necessarily with AI, but we want to be able to do with some technology. And despite this feeling of a lot of these things as, oh, now I can do anything with it, there are things that we still want to do that we're not currently doing. And, what are those things? Can we identify them so that we're more aware of, ChatGPT does not, in fact, let us have a robot who cleans our house.
How metaphysical can the answer be?
Depends where you want the discussion to go, I guess.
Okay, I'll tone it down. So I think the one thing I always think about with all these tools is expanding our time. Most of the problems that we have as society could be solved if people have more time. The natality rate in Japan is super low because people have like 12 hours working schedules and never get to meet anyone. I'm pretty sure all these new techs should enable people to be as productive as they are in less time, but instead of we getting that extra time to live our lives, we just keep working the same as before, being more productive so someone can buy a fancy yacht at the end of the year. And life sucks because it's not improving for everyone. That's what the one thing I would say.
Yes, some people would say it will improve for everyone. I mean, in some way, if we're more productive, there would be more stuff, so everybody could have more stuff in a way. But I think the thing about the working hours are not gonna reduce. It's a bit of a competition problem because many people, if they still are willing to work 8 hours a day and they're going to do it and other people don't, then all the people that are willing to work 8 hours a day will have a job, but the others won't get a job. Actually, the amount of free time humans have on average probably has massively increased since basically forever. So I'm not really sure why you think it's going to decrease.
I think he's not saying it's going to decrease. I think he's saying that most of the benefits will not actually go directly towards reducing the amount of time we work. Instead, that's just going to go to reducing the overhead that companies pay for workers.
Actually, aren't we seeing that? Like all these tech companies today firing thousands of people because they basically say they're accessories. Like we can do this with 20% less headcount. So that means that the remaining headcount is just going to have to compensate for the work that these people that just got fired are not doing anymore.
Yeah, until they don't. And then the company will generally have some kind of crisis. I mean, this is not an AI specific thing. I saw this all the time in companies in Japan where there would be a tendency, things would be overly stressful. They wouldn't have enough employees to do the job. Someone would get so stressed that they would have a medical episode or they would quit. And now there were even fewer people doing the job. So things would get sacrificed like advertisement. And generally speaking, that's a standard death spiral pattern for a company. So like the companies that are doing it really overzealously, in the short term, they're reducing costs. But in the long term, they're basically increasing their costs since when it's a lot more expensive to deal with something disastrously breaking versus paying maintenance.
I'm pretty sure the choices a manager is taking when they do that is, okay, so this guy that I had working on NLP and large language models, do I really need him now that I can just use the API from ChatGPT? Probably not.
Well, until something goes wrong, in which case it will be unfixable and it'll just have to go away. If it actually turns out that a given operation really does require less manpower now to do, then the decrease in manpower, that's just sort of like an equilibrium thing. Because those people are going to get other jobs, or they'll be unemployed and they'll have a lot of free time. In practice, they're going to get other jobs. Now, if the other jobs are systematically worse and worse and worse and worse jobs, then you get a reduction in quality of life. If the other jobs are equal or even better jobs, then that might lead to an improvement in quality of life. I guess the thing is, historically, most of the stuff we automated is stuff that's really horrible for a human to do because it wears their body down. Farming by hand or mining by hand or things like that. Of course, with AI, we're having the interesting inversion where everything AI automates is the really sit in a chair and think kind of stuff that people do and not the physical labor. It sucks at the physical labor. So in the case of AI, that balance may actually go against people in the sense that it'll push people into more physical jobs.
I would tend to agree with that last bit because, I mean, if I am doing job A and it would be super easy to find a separate job that is going to be better than the one I have, I wouldn't have to wait until my company fire me for me to change jobs. But if then this system
That's not so simple because that's like in a very immediate perspective, but the sort of long-term ecology of things, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of times people could get a better job, but they would have had to, say, make a different decision in grad school of what to study, or forget grad school. They would have had to make a different decision out of high school of what to do. And so, like, for the people in that generation, when things are changing abruptly, it will be chaos and they'll be scrambling. And some may be surprised where they land. But once people see that, being like a carriage driver has no future, then the supply side is also going to shift. And also, given the AI thing, as I said, the AI thing may be in a reverse direction anyway. But think about industrialization of clothing manufacturers, something like that. You might have some workshops of people getting together and pooling some resources, but you wouldn't have much economy of scale. Then suddenly that becomes invalid as a way of working because you're being massively outcompeted by an automated factory setup. So you're going to stop doing that. But that time is now freed up. And people are going to look for something else to do with that time. In the end, as demand changes, those goods become more available, but other things become more rare. So, a couple of those people might go and make a higher priced handcrafted stuff because there's this glut of the sort of lower quality machine manufactured stuff. Some of those people will stop making that. Some of them will become machine operators. But the next generation is going to look at it and say, all right, well, what am I going to learn to do? I should do that in the context of this new equilibrium of what is the demand in the society and what's the supply. So some people who before would have been sewing might be making the parts for these sewing machines, for instance. Yeah, I think it's naive to say, oh, yeah, that always ends up in people's favor. I mean, sometimes it doesn't. And I think in the short term, change is disruptive in general, but I think it can end up in people's favor in the long term. In particular, if it has a tendency to shift people from jobs that are more physically demanding to jobs that are more mentally demanding, I think then that generally improves the amount of free time you have and it improves the general quality of life. If we're doing the opposite with AI, it may make the general quality of life worse and reduce free time.
Unless somehow the physical exertion is exactly balanced. Too little physical exertion is also not good, maybe, for your quality of life. But yeah, that's probably not what's going to happen.
Over a 50-year time span, I think it's really hard to say definitively, like, the effects will be this or the effects will be that. Like, in some sense, if no one is able to work, that actually reduces the value of money, or the power of money, I should say.
If no one is able to work, then you can't earn any money. I mean,
yeah, so if no one is earning any money, you also can't sell any products or services. Because money, in some sense, is a stand-in for people willing to promise their time to other people. All right, like at the end of the day, a dollar indicates some number of hours from some number of different people. Some of that might prorated by how rare the people who can actually fulfill those hours. But like in the end, it represents someone's promise of their time. So if you get into a situation where no one can sell their time, then, okay, $1, you can buy someone's time, but you don't want to buy anyone's time. So what's the use of $1 anymore?
That's it for this week's episode of the Cross Labs podcast, On My Mind. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll be the first to know when the next episode is out. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.